Helmut Marko reveals big information about his future. George responds to doubts about his future, and Red Bull is under pressure to perform at this week's Grand Prix. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. George Russell spoke of an indefinite future at Mercedes after Nico Rosberg claimed his seat with the Silver Arrows is not safe at all. That claim came in regards to Mercedes boss Toto Wolff's pursuit of Max Verstappen, though Mercedes has invested in the future by naming 18-year-old Academy graduate Kimi Antonelli as the successor to seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who joins Ferrari from F1 2025, and Rosberg, who claimed his sole world championship with Mercedes in 2016 and retired soon after, does not believe the Verstappen to Mercedes prospect is done, despite the team missing out on the reigning three-time world champion for F1 2025. Such a move, in Rosberg's opinion, could spell trouble for Russell. George Russell is not safe at all because Toto still wants Max, and he will try again for 2026 because give up does not appear in Toto's vocabulary, said Sky F1 pundit Rosberg. If Max does become available, and I do think it's a possibility, then it is a shootout between George and Kimi next year. And it's a lot of pressure on George because he has everything to lose really next year. He should be the one ahead internally because Kimi is 18 and he's completely new and in a full pressure situation. It's not an easy situation there for George. However, Russell is not letting such thoughts enter his mind. As far as he is concerned, he is a Mercedes driver for the indefinite future. It's something we've not spoken about at all, to be honest, said Russell in regards to his Mercedes future when speaking to the media, including planetf1.com, ahead of Antonelli's confirmation. I've been with this team for so long I'm managed by Mercedes, and we've always said we will be continuing together for the indefinite future. There's a lot of conversations going on which are quite entertaining to read, but from my side, I'm not focused on any of that. I'm just focused on my driving. Russell did recently receive a major boost, with Wolff confirming that the flirting with the Verstappen camp had stopped and that he was ready to go full steam ahead with the Russell and Antonelli pairing. Speaking to media, including planetf1.com at Monza about Verstappen, with the Antonelli F1 2025 deal signed and sealed, Wolff said, "What I appreciated in dealing with them, Verstappen's team, it's just very straightforward. I don't flirt outside. I've always said it. I got maybe caught out by the Lewis situation, but I've not entertained any discussions with any drivers when giving it all from the team to make it a success. This is why all of our focus in the team is on George and Kimi, and that's what I also said. There's no discussion, there's no second thoughts about what we're doing in 2026, because now it's about 2024 and 2025. If flirting outside happens, then these guys, Antonelli and Russell, will know it at the same time. When we have those discussions, I've always been very open." Russell currently sits P8 in the F1 2024 Drivers' Championship standings, having claimed a win in Austria and a further podium in Canada where he started from pole. Red Bull senior advisor Helmut Marko revealed the question facing the team is about car balance in the RB20 and giving their drivers confidence moving forward. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez finished 6th and 8th respectively at Monza last time out, with Red Bull's Constructors' Championship lead cut to only 8 points at the end of the weekend. Verstappen dubbed the car undrivable at Monza as the team struggled to fight among their front-running rivals, with McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes all appearing quicker than Red Bull. Both Verstappen and Perez spoke of the lack of balance they felt while behind the wheel, and Marko agrees this is the key area for the team to address if they are to re-establish their authority at the top of the World Championship standings. The question now centers on how we go about rediscovering the good car balance from the first part of the season, Marko wrote in a column for Speedweek. Max Verstappen said in Monza that he doesn't need 20 points more downforce if it makes the car undrivable, so we have to rebuild and hopefully find the point at which the car was in balance. If we can do that, then the behavior of the car will become predictable again, the drivers will gain fresh confidence and will be able to contribute in an ideal way again. Of course, this is a difficult task because we've put a lot of new parts on the car since then. Put simply, we have to find out where we went wrong technically. Mercedes had the best car in the race at Spa-Francorchamps, McLaren at Zandvoort, and Leclerc triumphed in the Ferrari at Monza. Without these undulations, we would never have the lead we still have today. But of course, we can't constantly rely on one team being in front and then another. Our aim must be to be in front under our own steam. The lead in the Constructors' Championship has shrunk to 8 points. We don't have to write off the manufacturer's title just yet, because if Max starts to win again, then Checo finishes between 3rd and 5th place. It will be enough to successfully defend this title. Fernando Alonso has said it would be an honor to work with Adrian Newey if a deal with Aston Martin is struck. PlanetF1.com understands Newey's next move is set to be announced this week, with Aston Martin now hot favorites for his signature as he gets set to leave Red Bull in the first quarter of 2025. With the two-time world champion having never worked with the sport's most successful designer before, Alonso took delivery of his edition of the Newey-designed Aston Martin Valkyrie last week, with that being the closest the two have come to a collaboration thus far. As the future of the Formula One design grade has been a hot topic all season, Alonso has spoken favorably about if he would arrive at Aston Martin for his next move. Look, if one day Newey finally signs for Aston Martin, then it would be an honor for me to work with him because he is the best in history, Alonso told Spanish broadcaster DAZN. He is a genius in this sport and it would be incredible to work with him. But if the time doesn't come, then fine. And if the time comes and it only coincides with 6 months of my career or a year, then good for me. And we'll see, and when I have to think about whether I want to continue racing or not, it depends on so many things, and the moment we're in that, I don't know, and I prefer not to think about it. The respect between Alonso and Newey is mutual, with the Red Bull chief technology officer having admitted in an interview last year that he had hoped to have worked with the Spanish driver to date. When asked in an interview with the BBC in 2023 if there was a driver he had not worked with whom he felt he would have enjoyed a partnership with, Newey replied, "In terms of drivers, Fernando is one I have always." A reminder then came that a move for Alonso almost materialized at the end of 2013, as Mark Webber was preparing to retire from Formula One, to which Newey responded, "That's a regret that never happened because I have a tremendous respect for Fernando. The truth is, first of all, I try to live in the present and the future and not the past. Regrets? No. I just feel tremendously lucky to have had the opportunities I've had and to have worked with the people I have done and met the people I have done." As Mercedes bid to rediscover their pre-summer break form, Lewis Hamilton does not believe the W15 has reached its performance ceiling yet. Having been restricted to just the one victory after the introduction of Formula One's ground effect regulations in 2022, Mercedes exploded back onto the winning scene with 3 wins from 4 races going into the F1 2024 summer break, Hamilton taking a record-breaking 9th Silverstone win and victory at Spa, while before this George Russell triumphed in Austria. Mercedes has struggled to hit that level in the 2 rounds since the summer break, Zandvoort and Monza, P5 being their best result as the Silver Arrows look to rebound to those recent highs. And Hamilton has provided a very positive update when it comes to this Mercedes mission. Asked by the media, including PlanetF1.com in Monza, how difficult it is to predict where Mercedes will be in the pecking order ahead of a race, Hamilton replied, "I mean, some weekends we get it right, and some weekends we don't. There's definitely some performance to come over the course of the next few races. We do have small bits, but I don't know if we have anything huge coming, but hopefully we have some more for Austin. I'm hoping that we'll make some progress. There will be some tracks where we will be a little better than we are here. Hope that we have another chance to fight for a win at some stage." Hamilton's teammate George Russell finds Formula One strange to follow currently, considering the variation in performance of the leading teams. Red Bull, previously F1's dominant force, is now on a 6-race run without tasting victory, while Ferrari stunned McLaren at Monza, returning to the top step of the podium with a home win to delight the Tifosi. "The sport is a bit strange at the moment with how Red Bull have lost so much pace," said Russell. "Ferrari seemed to be struggling in Zandvoort and all the races prior, but then they were so quick on Sunday in Zandvoort and this whole weekend." Mercedes sit P4 in the Constructors' Championship as they look to close in on the tightly packed leading trio of Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull. The gap to Ferrari in P3 is 115 points with 8 rounds to go. Helmut Marko said it would be natural for him to step back from his Red Bull duties in the future after the longtime advisor moved into his 80s. Marko is one of the oldest and most experienced members of the F1 paddock, but plays just as crucial a role now as he has done for the last 2 decades. With that in mind, Marko said he still feels fit enough to carry on, but did suggest he would naturally step back from some of his responsibilities. MARKO was a key figure in the establishment of the Red Bull racing team, working together with the company's co-owner Dietrich Mateschitz to create what is now a title-winning empire. To this day, he remains a crucial cog in the Red Bull wheel and is known to have a big ally in Max Verstappen. Even at 81 years of age, the Austrian travels to every Grand Prix, and he said he plans to continue until at least 2026. "I'm not getting any younger," he told the Inside Line F1 podcast. "My contract goes till 2026, but as long as I am physically and mentally in shape to do my job, I will continue. I enjoy it, but naturally I will step back more and more and hopefully find a good successor." One of MARKO's key roles is nurturing young talent, and the Austrian has been known to be ruthless when it comes to who is and who is not promoted up the Red Bull ladder. But undoubtedly his most successful youth product is reigning champion Max Verstappen, and MARKO recalled how he took a risk giving him an F1 seat at such a young age. "Verstappen was 15 years old when we signed him," he said. "He was 16 when he had his first outing in Suzuka. Suzuka is one of the most demanding circuits, old style, and we had a lot of criticism, dangerous young guy and blah blah blah, and now they changed the rules, unfortunately. With Max, I was sitting down for an hour or for nearly 2 hours, and there was a mature man in a very young body, but his vision of what he wanted and how he wanted to achieve it, that was very clear. So for me, it was not a risk to put him in the Formula One car. Yes, he had some accidents, but nearly everybody, when he first starts, has some accidents. There's a joke that's been going around the Formula One paddock since the start of the season. Britain has never had such well-kept gardens. It's a reference to Formula One's gardening leave, the informal name for that period after an employee ends his time working at a team, but before he is contractually free to join someone else. After all, if someone has signed for a rival competitor, it is not in a team's interest to let them move immediately, because they can take some valuable current knowledge with them. Instead, staff are often forced to see out the remainder of their contracts, either by working on special projects unrelated to the F1 team or at home. In this period of limbo, their knowledge of current developments is limited, so when they arrive at their new team, there is not as much they can add. Over the years, teams have significantly increased this period of gardening leaving imposed in the event of resignation, sometimes reaching more than 12 months. For example, Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur signed his new technical director Loic Serra back in the late spring of 2023, but he will be joining only this October. The gardening leave system was accepted because it protects those who fear losing staff. However, there has been some pushback over it in recent months, as some question whether the whole system needs changing. Since the end of 2022, 8 of the 10 Formula One teams have hired a new team principal, and it is common practice for a new name at the helm to want to make changes to the team's organizational chart. All of this translates into recruitment campaigns that, in the vast majority of cases, aim to draw technicians and managers from other teams. This is what we have seen since the beginning of 2023, with a series of personnel movements, especially technical, that has led to hundreds of resignation letters. As one team insider said, "If we put together all those who are on gardening leave, we can form an 11th team." Last winter, Vasseur spoke about difficulties encountered by those who want to make their own mark on a team. "When you realize that you have a gap to fill with hiring, you know that a new employee will have to wait 12 months before joining the team," he said. "After that period, they can start coming to the office and their contribution will only be visible in the following year's project. So from the moment you need a person to the moment you see the results related to their work, 2 to 3 years pass." This has now become a headache for most teams. However, when an inconvenience becomes common, the will to remedy it grows. It is not surprising that in recent weeks, paddock sources have pointed to the idea of a proposal being put forward for a gentleman's agreement to help universally reduce the amount of time staff must serve for gardening leave. It is understood that central to the debate going on right now are several key elements. For example, does such a long period of gardening leave still make sense today considering the evolution of working methods? During the COVID lockdown period, for instance, there was a very strong push to enhance systems that allowed remote working, and Formula One, as is in its nature, stands out for its speed and efficiency when it comes to marrying a new technology. Remote working has solved many problems, inadvertently creating a new one. Who is today able to check if a professional during the gardening period does not offer their input while sat at home? Years ago, the presence on site for a technician was an essential element to be able to guarantee their support to a department. Today, being in contact with collaborators remains a plus, but it is no longer an indispensable condition. Hence the bizarre conflict between the need to impose such long periods of gardening leave and then being unable to supervise it, risking putting those who want to respect the contractual clauses in difficulty compared to those who have fewer problems turning on a computer and working from home. All of this paradoxically also weighs on the budget cap of their former team, given that the agreement provides for remuneration until the expiry of the notice period set. Beyond this, there are those who see the gardening leave as a break on the overall development of the world of Formula One. The circulation of personnel without too many constraints has always been the main way for the exchange of information, which also helps level F1's playing field to a certain extent. Today, this process seems to be slowed down considering the tight schedule with which Formula One teams operate. Does it really make sense to continue to insist on holding back staff from joining rivals when a squad then faces frustration in not being able to hire people as quick as it wants? Teams seem to be losing both ways. With F1's employment merry-go-round perhaps more active than it has been for years, this is a topic that is not going to go away, and it looks increasingly likely to fall off the agenda of team principals meetings very soon. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella has detailed how his squad has been able to hold a consistent advantage towards the front of the F1 field this season. McLaren has been a front-runner for much of the campaign, with an upgrade in Miami raising it to race-winning form. The Woking-based squad now sit just 8 points behind Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, while Lando Norris is 62 points back on Max Verstappen in the drivers' standings. Red Bull has been one of several teams this year that has taken a backward step throughout the season with the direction of its car. Stella explained McLaren has taken extra care not to rush new parts onto the car until it is confident it will not present unforeseen complications. "We haven't brought a significant upgrade since Miami," Stella told media, including Racing News 365. The next relevant upgrade, not as big as Miami, was in Zandvoort, and it didn't involve the floor. It was just a detail. It was some other areas of the car. But there's a reason why we haven't brought some upgrades. We see that had we pressed the go button, we might have had some doubts when these parts were tested full scale on the real car. So we are taking our time to convince ourselves that the development is mature to be taken trackside. McLaren recently completed construction of its own wind tunnel from its Woking factory, adding another important tool to its hunt for an F1 title. Previously, it had utilized Toyota's wind tunnel in Cologne. Stella highlighted setting up its own facility is a vital tool in ensuring it competes at a high level due to the complexity of the current cars. "I think in terms of the wind tunnel, it does help the fact that we can lean on a new wind tunnel to the latest technology because we are dealing with complex aerodynamics," he said. "I think the evolution of these cars has led to some challenging flow physics, and I think that's where other teams, including McLaren, is struggling to easily generate developments." That's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one.